Oh, welcome everybody to a special webinar and collaboration that I've called Embodying Yin in Action series. My name is Li-Lan Hsiang Weiss, and I am a licensed acupuncturist in Durham, North Carolina, and the steward of Armonia Health, an integrative wellness center. And I, aside from being an acupuncturist, in 2008, I also started studying the Arvigo techniques of Maya abdominal therapy. And it's been a beautiful journey that Alex and I will share a little bit more as we introduce ourselves. But I just wanted to welcome everybody who has been an Arvigo practitioner, known Rosita Arvigo. Welcome to the people on the Spirit World Meetup group and those connected to Alex's Centered Spirits Center in Kansas City, Missouri. And so the Embodying Yin in Action series came forth from a deep spiritual growth that started happening for me as soon as the pandemic started last March. And I completely pivoted everything for myself professionally. And in that essence, for me, what I do in my profession is connected to my personal growth. There became no separation slowly over last year of who I had been practicing, what I've been practicing in my spirituality, and what I wanted to bring forth. So Embodying Yin in Action came as an inspiration of sharing virtually I call spiritual luminaries that are the, say, ascended masters and goddesses that I've personally worked with. And the impetus to put it forth came on the week before the Our Lady of Guadalupe in December. Within a week, I had contacted a dear friend named Francis Rico, who leads trips to Teotihuacan in Mexico City. And we had talked about putting forth the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, also called Tonantzin. Also another name for her is the eagle that comes like a ball of fire. So you can kind of get the imagery of embodying yin in action. So yin being the feminine, but it's also more than just the feminine, it's the yin. So the next one that came forth was Ix-Chel. And I also was called to collaborate with a male practitioner for this, and Alex came to mind. And we had this beautiful, like, hour-and-a-half conversation, I think, in January of this year. And we seemed to both feel in line with creating this collaboration. So here is the fruit of our share. I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Li-Lan. Yeah, I am honored to be part of this. And when Li-Lan called, it was like, wow, just to hear that connection again. I've got so many, this is my life and what I do as well, and embodying this piece. So just to share, she was asking me some things about just a male perspective and how the dualities resonated, and it was something that I've thought about for years, and I've shared in different classes, but I thought, wow, this is a really nice thing to be able to put this together and to present it in a way that probably has strings going through all of us, but it's just a nice perception of how we see it, interpretation. But that's going to resonate through each one of us too, and help all of us to kind of spread that word. in the times that we are right now. And so I think as we worked on this more and I thought about it more, I was uncovering even more things, that meanings that I probably live with each day and didn't really recognize that I had ever put to words before, or the meanings behind it. So it's really a nice uncovering that I think you'll kind of find well with this presentation, and just kind of as we go along with it. So that's kind of where I'm came along with it, and it's been fun, and kind of appropriate time here as we go into Earth Week or Earth Day with Ix-Chel, and also around the full moon. So it's a wonderful bringing that all together. And I think she means something great to everyone that's here, and even the ones that don't know, or if there's someone here that just introduced for the first time, I think it has a very good meaning and introduction as well in that step. So, yeah. So I think now let's see. I think we're going to go on to just kind of an overview of what we're going to go to today. Is that right, Li-Lan? Yeah.
Yes. Next slide, please.
Yeah. Oh, why is my slide not going to next? I got to figure. There we go. So there's a picture Li-Lan was talking about, if anybody can see that. We just, that was a picture that when I went to, I think Judith Brooks is the one that possibly said, hey, come teach this self-care class about 10 years ago. It was maybe 11 years ago, in 11, I guess, 2010 it was, in Durham, North Carolina. And so Li-Lan assisted, and it was a great time out there. And that's where we met, and this comes from. And so first we're going to talk about a little bit each of us in this presentation, our lineage to Ix-Chel, and where we learned it from, mostly Rosita Arvigo, and how we've kind of taken that forward. The cultural presentations, so where that fits in and what it is that she represents culturally. Then also Ix-Chel, the three words that kept coming to me, and this will be explained more, is accessible, relatable, and adaptable. And this is a goddess that really embodies all of that all the time: accessible, relatable, and adaptable. And so we'll cover that. Male and female perspectives, the duality that exists in all of us, of course, but it's great that we have this presentation for that perspective, kind of doing both, I think. Meditation we'll have a little break. We'll have a meditation that Li-Lan has channeled or dreamed with and has come to her, and it's really a beautiful meditation that will help guide us through some things. We'll have time for comments and questions and your views and stuff, and then we'll have a little closing of what Ix-Chel means for us today as well in this webinar. So that's a full time, I think. And so comments on that, Li-Lan, anything?
The only word that comes to mind is transformation. And you'll hear that throughout the symbolisms of Ix-Chel. But as I look at, when I saw this picture of us from 2010 and how my hair has only been short from then, because I had shaved my head in 2009, I think, and now again in 2010. And so for me, it's periods of transformation. So it's kind of interesting that it coincides with Ix-Chel and the abdominal therapy, Mayan connection that we both have. So transformation is my wish for everybody. So a little intro about myself and how I have both interest and a personal, I would say, a past life connection here. I am originally from Taiwan, and all my family is in Taiwan. And but my father left his home country when he was 20, and he ended up in Central America most of his life. And so from age 4 to 18, I lived in Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And part of school is that we'd study the history of the country, and the Maya culture was always part of our history classes. And so I remember just loving going to the Mayan temple cities. And so in Guatemala, it was Tikal, and I was about in 6th grade, and we took a plane to Tikal, which is in the northern part of Guatemala. And my goodness, those massive temples in the Mayan pyramids were, there was just this, like, I just liked it, you know, and being like 11 years old, you know, that's all I knew, that I just liked it. And then when I lived in Honduras in middle school and high school, we went a lot to Copan. And Copan is known for its beautiful stone stelas. They're carvings kind of depicting the history and the gods of the Mayan people. And the same, I just liked going there. And so by 2008, I had become a licensed acupuncturist. And I think it was in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2005, actually, I learned about Dr. Rosita Arvigo, and she was teaching the self-care classes then. And I just love the connection of the abdomen to our core and to our center. I didn't get to take her class then. It was just too much going through acupuncture school and doing something extra. So I think I came back to North Carolina and followed the Arvigo Institute, and then happened to have a self-care class at the beach with Patience Harvey, my first teacher introduction to all of this work. And it was this beautiful self-care class near the ocean. And it really opened up my mind to a lot of different ways of looking at the female womb. That was different from Chinese medicine, but at the same time, very connected. And when it came to the Maya spirituality, I felt like I was looking for a nature connection back to my Taiwanese roots. I grew up with family that's both Buddhist and Taoist. And whenever we did go back when I was little, they'd always do blessings for us the minute we arrived at the houses. And they involved water and fire and prayer. And I knew I couldn't quite find that here in North Carolina, but I knew that there's always threads of connection between all the traditional medicines from around the world. And so I did find that with Ix-Chel. And at that time too, between probably like 2006 till like 2016, over 10 years, I was also returning to healing my feminine side and connecting to divine feminine. And I found so much beauty in this work with the Maya medicine, and definitely with Ix-Chel, that it was just the perfect timing for my personal growth and blossoming and connecting to the beauty of being around a lot of women and healers. And so, and then in 2016, I moved my practice and expanded and formed Armonia Health. And like I mentioned earlier, with this pandemic, now I'm kind of actually moving into I think the even more holistic approach to health by including some of the beautiful spiritual practices that I have embodied, and I'm happy to share in this talk.
Thank you, Li-Lan. That's great. Well, a little bit about me. I grew up in New Mexico, and I live in Kansas City, Missouri right now. I have for about over the last 20 years. But growing up in New Mexico, it wasn't my first introduction to Ix-Chel, my first, or the Maya or anything like that. I mean, I think I had it in my lineage, my roots somewhere, but probably my spirit was looking for that. And of course, when I met Rosita in 2003, that was it. That was what I had been looking for, yet my spirit probably didn't. It guided me there, and that's what I knew. the connection to this work. And most importantly, I do remember that when I was introduced to this, I love the part that the Maya never separated out the physical, the emotional, but the spiritual was there. There was something to connect with Ix-Chel. And I remember in New Mexico going to church with my grandmother, as she was Catholic, but never told us to be, spiritual or Catholic. So we went and just sat along with her. And there was some resonance of some spirituality here, but it also felt as if you weren't trained in it or you couldn't connect with it in some degree. But when I heard about and when I was introduced to Ix-Chel, there was a resonance of a connectability there that was useful. That was some words that we'll talk about in this, like it was approachable, familiar. It was a feminine goddess as well, and the patriarchal society of sometimes those didn't ever resonate with me. And I remember, Rosita saying as well that in order to do this type of work, working with the spiritual, the emotional body in a way, you have to have a spiritual ally in that. And for not having that or not knowing how to connect with that, it became much easier to do. And Ix-Chel was that for me and always has been since then. In fact, going to Cozumel in 2004, which we'll see there too. I carry around this. I had a amulet made here, basically on Chichen Itza or Cozumel 1 and 2, and I got Ix-Chel's name on it, and she's been with me ever since. And I find that as a strong ally that carries with me each day. So I've had this strong connection to Central America, to Mexico, and over the last decade, spent a lot of time not only previously studying in Belize, in Guatemala, but also in Mexico to keep going in traditional medicine, and also then been asked to be a speaker many times at the University of New Mexico, the curanderismo classes and curanderismo. And then also working in the last decade here, or last few decades, but last 4 years, my wife and I put together our forces and opened our cultural holistic health center here in the tea room and everything like that to teach classes and to be able to actually even to teach more about these cultural influences and how everybody can be relatable and connectable to them. So I feel every day that it doesn't leave me. And I think that everybody needs to also see that beauty, which is why I feel very comfortable sharing in the experiences that Ix-Chel has brought. Thank you. Yeah.
Alex, could you just give a brief sentence or two of what curanderismo is?
Sure. So curanderismo is just like it comes from the word curar, which means to cure, basically, or heal. So in essence, what we're talking about is the study of healing, or the different techniques in Mexican folk medicine in some degree. So one of those techniques, in fact, is we would consider my abdominal massage. We would consider cupping therapy. We would consider herbal therapy, counseling. All of these are those gifts or dawns that we all come in with, but just a way that sometimes the word can sound scary, because again, we think of traditional medicine and the opposite sometimes of allopathic, but really it's complementary and to what we're all trying to do in simple but effective techniques to help with people, and has been passed on for centuries. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So next we get to introduce to you an introduction of Ix-Chel. A disclaimer that Alex and I want you to know is that We will share about Ix-Chel from how we've learned about her. It is not 100% comprehensive as like a historian would or a cultural anthropologist would get to be able to share a lot more. But our focus is for this webinar is to give an introduction of the aspects that we embody and use in our lives, and make her accessible, adaptable, and relatable. And so Ix-Chel, one translation of her name means Lady Rainbow, also goddess of iridescent light. And that iridescent light is connected to all aspects of water. So water both as in rain, as droplets inside the stalactite or stalactite caves, rivers, the ocean, the clouds and mists. And I love learning this because from studying Chinese medicine, there's also a very strong connection to the nature elements. And I loved how here was a personification of a goddess that had this deep, intimate connection with water, which, you know, is very cleansing and nurturing. And so that I found very beautiful. And growing up in Central America, I learned only male Maya gods. I might have wondered why there were really no female ones that seemed to be important. And so when I learned about Ix-Chel through the Arvigo's self-care class, and then with Rosita Arvigo, it was so touching for me. And and then to move further into these three, the triptych personification, which maiden, virgin, mother, I added caretaker, and crone or elder. Also allowed me to move further into my own cycles, having been born with being a female. So.
Thanks, Li-Lan. I have to agree and say that sharing the elements that in Maya gods, it is something that each person can, obviously, we can all relate to. And that's what makes it a lot more accessible. When you have the three characteristics of a maiden, a mother, and a crone, we can't deny that we can see this in our families. We can see this in our business, you know, where we work. We can see someone who is at these stages of each time. And for it doesn't seem as if there is something that's not accessible at any stage of this, or unfamiliar, whether it's, you know, a male or a female that is looking or seeing this or accepting it or making it part of their life or reverence to. So that is what I think is, when we talk about Maya gods, we talk about rain gods too, we talk about sun gods, we even talk about the gods of the crossroads. All of this we've encountered at some point. But also when you look at these three stages, there's nobody that doesn't know this person. And that is what pertains such meaning. Sometimes to take a god or goddess in, it seems that you really have to be brought up in maybe going to a church each day or having this every day in your life for years and years to learn about it. But if you can see this every day in just your overall society, it makes a huge difference. And that's one beautiful thing about the Maya, what they did with Ix-Chel.
So next we'll get to show you these are the slates that I went to Belize in 2010. No, 2009. I think 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. And so there's these beautiful slates of the carvings. And so we'll get to, we'll share the symbolism now of this is Ix-Chel, the maiden, a virgin. That's a snake on top of her head. Snake representing medicine, like the Kadasa symbol. It's also a connection to earth. And lately I've been, just this week, I was sharing to someone about the shedding of the snake skin as a metaphor, symbolism of, what we've outgrown. And so it's a powerful medicine too, for also joint, like it can make a salve. And it's eaten, it's very tonic, say in Chinese food therapy. Snake is a very tonic and warming animal meat. And I think the previous one where we saw the triptych, she has a loom, so she's a weaver. This one is depicted with a flower. It's Rosita says she kind of added that, but traditionally the maiden has a loom where she weaves. What would you like to add, Alex?
Usually we see also, I think her color is blue. And so the blue necklace, and we see that color, and also the direction that she's always facing, or would be going to the east. So a few things there. Of course, that would be we think about east too, where the sun rises. Let's think of that too. That yellow that comes up over the mountain as well with that. So goddess of childbirth there, she's as well. But really just, again, another stage that we can all identify with. So as this person, as goddess, and one that even a young woman or even a young man can recognize that there is something resonable with that, and they can learn from. So that's why I think when we'll talk about the island of Cozumel a little bit, why it was probably an easy thing to kind of people to look at and say, that's something I really want to, someone that is easy for me to see in my own life. So, and here we see the next one, which is the goddess or the mother of the moon. She's actually in the crescent moon here, the mother, which now she doesn't have the snake on her forehead because that's what she's doing. She's taking care of her children, not time for being a healer at this moment. But also we see the rabbit, which is also the sign of fertility in many cultures, including the Maya. She's also is the one who is responsible for the sex of the baby. And also one of these will be placed under the table of the birthing, where the mother, or in the room where the mother was giving birth as well. So.
You see the dragonfly on our slides. That's the transformation part. We'll talk a little bit more about another animal connection to Ix-Chel. And we'll also talk a little bit more to Alex and I about the moon cycles. As you can see here, she's depicted with the moon.
More anything else, Li-Lan?
I'd say so. If the maiden, I would say the word is innocence. Here, I'd say it's the fruit of our labors, being like the middle stage of whatever we're creating and coming forth. That's the fertility. That's not just of procreation of living beings, but of living ideas and projects and ways to serve others. So I see that as this figure of Ix-Chel. And also how we all may move into a role of caretaker, whether you're male, female, or transgendered. We can all relate to being caretakers of someone or something. And so now to the elder and the crone, the serpent, the snake is larger, symbolizing the collection of wisdom and knowledge through experience and time. So yeah, that snake is powerful there on her forehead. And Ix-Chel here that carries a water jug, where she can bring floods and hurricanes when she is upset. And that's, to me, the representation of setting boundaries. And she is also the bringer of rain to nourish all beings. And here she's depicted on this, beautiful designs, which I have to say, there's so much to textiles symbolism, right, Alex, in the Mexican and Guatemalan culture that that's a whole other subject too, but I think you can see some of the designs, the elaborateness, and the jade necklaces that she's been wearing. Those are traditionally jade or maybe obsidian too, necklaces.
Yeah, I know it'd be beautiful if we had the original colors and everything that I'm sure that maybe there were a few drawings in some of the sites, the Maya sites, but if they remained any of the color, it'd be amazing to just see what she had in the textiles. You're right. So there's the next one here is the original picture, I believe, of her at the loom weaving. And so we see this as she's an original weaver and pulling a lot of these things, medicines and the original goddess together. She actually was a wife too we see that duality in the Maya cultures of Itzat-Nam. So she's thought to be that as well, even though she was probably the ruler of, or the biggest of the god or goddesses, if you will, of that. We're looking at San Gervasio, the temple that she has in Cozumel in Mexico, which I know that some of you on the call today or in the link, a lot of you have gone to the conventions in Playa del Carmen when we made with Rosita Arvigo the pilgrimage over to Cozumel, and the feeling that felt like, I'm sure that someone can remember that, and if you can't or weren't there, just the feeling of being able to be on a place that was for women in a way that where we took the sacredness, and men respected that in a way. Men also were there to ferry and protect them over there, but there was a respect for that on this island or in the culture in general, so that they could learn about their cycles of womanhood, all these stages. And there was also these buildings also were painted more in white, so there was a lot more color there, of course, at the time. But you can see there's a sacredness to those temples that were there for her, overseeing Cozumel, Isla Mujeres, all of that region, if you will, in this place. So, Li-Lan, what do you have about that?
I remember being intrigued, Rosita talking about the possible openings in the ground that emitted steam, natural steam from the earth that was used for pelvic steams.
Yep.
And kind of doing like a little archaeology sort of detective work to see where those were in that area. It was fun.
Okay.
We have one more temple picture for you. This is Tulum, Quintana Roo, so it's on the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. Tulum, this city is right on the edge of the ocean, of the Caribbean Ocean. So right behind here, like several hundred yards, is the beautiful blue crystalline Caribbean Sea. And I remember the first time I went to Tulum was probably like in the 90s or late 80s, and being fascinated that the way the top part of a temple, which here you see one door, there's another temple in Tulum where it has 3 doors, and where you stand at certain times of the year, the sun or the moon would shine through one of the 3 doors, marking the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, the winter solstice. So I remember just being fascinated with the archaeology and the placement, and you'd say the feng shui of the Mayan cities. And here is there's an Ix-Chel carving that you'll see in the next slide, which I think to me is the only one I know of. And so here it is. This is an artist's depiction that I want to read to you. Her name is Jennifer Gilchrist, and she's originally from Scotland, but she's a resident of Mexico for almost 40 years. And here is, this is the Temple of Frescoes. So that was the Temple of Frescoes. And she writes that among the pantheon of Mayan gods, the most important female deity is Ix-Chel, the moon goddess, shown here holding 2 versions of the rain god Chak, which Alex is, Itzana is not, it's not, well, it's different, right? But here's another connection to water with her. And Chak represents the farewell of the old year and the welcoming of the new. The water lily plants are characteristics of an association with the water lily jaguar. And this image is taken from the temple frescoes. And it's a shrine dedicated to Ix-Chel, goddess of fertility and childbirth. Like Alex mentioned, pregnant women would often make the pilgrimage by dugout canoe to ask for aid and ease in childbirth. Childless women would also make the journey with prayers and offerings to encourage fertility. The focus of the Temple of Ix-Chel was a life-size hollow idol. A small secret door in the inside wall allowed access to the idol, from which a priest would speak to the worshippers. Hence the origin of the speaking oracle. Ix-Chel was also the goddess of disease and medicine, reflecting the prevalent belief in various parts of the world that there is a connection between certain ailments and the phases of the moon. Once named Lady Rainbow, the goddess of weaving in general, regarded as a beneficent deity, can also take the form of an old woman in a bad temper, and is depicted as the young moon goddess in a more attractive guise. All the other gods are said to be the offspring of Ix-Chel and Samna, the supreme deity, lord of the day, lord of the night and heavens, the inventor of writing, the patron of learning and the sciences. Yeah. So that oracle of Ix-Chel is something that, as a resource later on, Rosita Arvigo wrote a novel called The Oracle of Ix-Chel, which goes into detail into, the oracle tradition.
So this here is another picture. It's not Ix-Chel, but I wanted to add it because it's the Aztec god of the moon, Coyoshake. And why? Because the Maya, actually, when we talk about Ix-Chel, the accessible part of it, when we look at this, even though there's a story behind Coyoshake and people have reference to the moon goddess, she's a moon goddess as well, you can see there's a story about dismemberment. And if you know all of this story and the mythology behind it, then it makes a connection. But the beautiful thing about Ix-Chel is, and when they're benevolent gods, is that you have a much easier way to have this connection a lot of times by the way that the story goes or the look and stuff without having to understand the whole thing behind it. So we can have sometimes a similar god or goddess that has a meaning of an element for a moon goddess or fertility or something like that. But at the same time, it just may not be as easy to relate to in some degree if you're not from that actual culture per se. So that's the reason I put this here, to show that there is a, it's not that far of a difference sometimes from the Aztec to Maya. Sometimes when we think about the Mexico, there's geographically speaking, time period wise, there is a difference, but so to take away some of the confusion if there is, but also put it more simple terms too, why. Makes sense? Yeah.
And there's the serpent, very prominent.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so here we have kind of the crux of what Alex and I kind of share from our personal experience and practices. We had a conversation about how us both not being of Maya descent, but have a deep reverence for Ix-Chel through both our professional training and our professional work as Dharma massage therapists. And I come from a culture where in Asia, I like to say the more the better, is as far as gods and goddesses, where there is no one god that you have to conform to. So from my growing up, me adopting the wisdom and the beauty of Ix-Chel, well, there was really no conflict. And I knew, like I'd mentioned, that it was about my deeper connection to nature and to beauty. And so I think that's how understanding Ix-Chel made it very accessible to me. Like, it was just very relevant. What's your take, Alex?
Yeah, just to kind of go back a little bit on some of the things I probably covered a little bit, but there, to do this work and have, when you talk about intention, I had to use the word for a while, intention, because when you grow up with a specific sort of deity or a religion or something, you can kind of relate to prayer a lot of times. The word prayer becomes that. But to get into prayer, to get into connection, to get into spirit, and to get into that form of intention, and then use the word intention, what's your intention, or things like that too. When you look at, again, nature around you, when you look at the sun, when you look at the moon, when you look at the energy that involves water, and then when you feel this at the same rate, we all have this masculine, feminine energy, but for myself, I've always been able to connect with that emotional side, that side of feminine part that is to able to understand that water, that flow, and so that became that accessible part, and it became relatable to me in some degree. It's something that Ix-Chel represented for me, that didn't seem like, and remember, I remember Rosita also saying that whenever you need her, she'll be there, that she's happy to be called upon. And that gave that permission side as well, that I felt like making that pilgrimage, making that and knowing that she has been there in a lot of ways for me. And I feel comfortable even bringing that, teaching about it or talking about it, because of that representation, not having to be of a Mayan descent in some degree, in some origin, but because of that understandability, we all have to have something that we feel is a connection. So I've embodied that throughout my practice, throughout my life, my everyday. There's probably there's not a day go by that I don't start the day off or end the day with that connection to her, or even throughout that it permeates with that. So I'm, grateful for that connection and introduction, and also that, or probably a reconnection from from Mayan times. Maybe I was there when she was there, hopefully, or something, maybe reconnection, but hopefully with something that we all have been reconnected to in this way. And I remember looking up at the moons many times, whether it be in Mexico or Belize, and feeling this closeness, because the stars are so clear then, and you can look up at the moon, and you can basically almost see this figure of Ix-Chel, almost the glyphs inside of that, and the feeling the energy of it. So having that tangible, or that movement with it is pretty um, real and amazing, and feels close to you, close to me at least. So that's where I come from on that, all of those things. So when, and you'll see kind of this, we keep talking about it, but that's one of the things when I thought about what are the words that keep coming back when I think about Ix-Chel today. And those words kept coming back to me. He's accessible, and she's relatable, and adaptable to things, to each person, to their own life experiences, and even today. So
It reminds me, Alex, of I grew up with the Chinese story of looking up at the full moon and finding the rabbit in the shadows of the craters of the full moon. And so when I saw Ix-Chel, the mother caretaker with the rabbit, I was like, hey, there's another sign of how everything's interconnected in this world, and its mythology and its ways of looking at nature.
mm-hmm. Yeah, nature tells a lot of stories, and that's amazing. We can see that each day in it and move forward with it. So I guess next one.
Oops. Oh, yeah, you were going to talk about the duality of the Maya gods. And that you go back to the previous slide, please.
Okay.
I'm not going to remember, but
I don't know. Here we go. There we go. Oh, my notes here. One of the things is I had never seen before, at least, and then I'm not an anthropologist in sort of but when I think about duality, there's not a lot of that represents a lot for people, knowing that they can see them as we see even today in DEI movements and things of this nature, or what we're trained with. People, you need to see yourself in your representation of the world, of duality, of spirit, of gods. And so when we talk about the duality, this connection to it, I believe that everybody needs that, but also, how does a male, is that what you were asking about? Connect with this, Li-Lan, the duality in it, to make sure I'm going the right way that you asked.
I think so. Yeah, this is where I see the fluidity,
Fluidity.
of our conversation.
So part of this is, I wanted to say, how does a male connect to a female goddess, if you will, or a goddess of fertility, or we talk about the moon goddess? Well, as we said before, you see this in everyday life. You see a mother, you see the young woman, the maiden, and you see the grandmother, the crone, this wisdom, this wise woman. I came with my grandmother was kind of the rock in my life. So for many of my years, and that spiritual person that I tended to me. And so I had this wise, mature bringing that I respected with that wisdom. And I think that helped me understand it too. But, for men and the duality of it, why is it so important too, is because in women, we can see this each person, but as a male, we don't have that. We don't have a we are expected a lot of times, I think, as a male, to go from, let's say, a boy to warrior. So there's a lot of gods and stuff that go to a warrior in that some degree, whereas that's not a natural state. You have to become that. You have to enter into training, or something has to be forced against you to become a warrior. Whereas a stage of a woman is a natural state. It's a natural state to be a mother and to be a grandmother, to be a young woman. All of these things are in there, and a male can relate to that, even if they're not that, because they can understand that and they have that feminine side in them, or they've been connection with women in family and society as well. So I believe that it's a duality that we always get to, but also have to understand why is it that men don't also sometimes understand or have a goddess, but this is one that they can relate to for this reason. You know, Ix-Chel is that accessible goddess in a way, because of that, no matter if it's a male or female in that duality stage of things. Yeah.
And as we kind of are having this conversation, Alex, like, you know, how we've talked several times over the last few months, I have been playing with duality in my life, the yin and the yang, and moving closer towards non-duality. And so I'm feeling, as we kind of speak, even just right now, and how we connect, it feels to me that a little bit of that dissolvement of duality, you know, even though we came together kind of specifically as a female, as a male perspectives, and we're gonna keep playing with that. It's beautiful for me to feel the possibility of that slow dissolvement. You know, as you've told me that you've been always very comfortable being around other, you know, female healers and women because of their connection to emotions and how you hold emotions, you know, importantly. And for me, the 10 years of deep sort of feminine embodiment, I'm now in the last sort of few years healing my inner masculine aspects, which I saw myself, yeah, portraying sort of patriarchy in a way that was learned and not really what I wanted to embody as a business person. But that was the only model I really had as a. But I knew that that leadership could look differently, and so I love how we can just keep connecting, yeah, in a way that holds true to our hearts through things like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important to we have this and know that there is a long-standing connection to this, and as far as ancient connection, if you will, to this side of nurturing a mother, of connection that we can teach not only women but men. You know, men that have not been able to access their inner feminine side, or their inner sort of emotional connection to things, that there is a representation for this, not only in their life, but there is something that's been revered and respected for this as we come into it on both sides. But hopefully, like you say, this will dissolve in some degree to where it just becomes kind of a river flowing between it, instead of you know, one's the thick mud or the mountain wall, and one's the river or something of that nature, you know, when there's just so that's what we hopefully do. But that's what I've taken over the years, and I had that reflection of why has it been, why do men mostly understand that? You know, I've never wanted to be that warrior person, if you will. It didn't resonate with me to be the warrior. We always have to fight. We have to fight when necessary and stand up for what we believe in and be those things. But to not have a understanding of how and why and what we mean, and try to find those ways like a river would around those paths of least resistance, and try to flow with that is not the right way and the path that they've shown us and for a long time. So that's why the feminine energy of this transcends further sometimes too, as we're coming into that in this world at the moment. So
Beautiful.
mhm.
So the other aspect of accessibility and relatable ability is you just connect to nature and water and rainbows. I mean, who doesn't love seeing a rainbow? And so many times in Belize, there's been some beautiful rainbows, and definitely if you're in the tropics or out in the desert, it's just this joy of connecting to nature. Um, and the dragonfly, like I mentioned, whenever I see a dragonfly, either in my yard, in my garden, or there's years where there's tons of dragonflies mating. And I just, the same, I get giddy and joyful and just contemplate on what transformations might come my way. And that's been sort of my way of connecting to Ix-Chel, as I guess naturally am in the body of the cycles and of menstruation. So I like playing with the water symbolisms. And snake, I love that black garden snake that we have in our garden. I tell people, don't be afraid of snakes. I mean, you got to know what kind of snakes are around in your area that you want to avoid. But those black garden snakes, they're a blessing for around the home. So it's helped me destigmatize, the fear a lot of people have around snakes. And I don't know what we have in that last, I'm covered up in that last word there after snake.
You have snake, and then weaving. We have weaving.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, my question to everybody either listening to this or assisting is, what are you weaving together in your life? The interconnectedness, I think that's become very, very obvious with the pandemic as of last year, just our interconnectedness. To me, that's part of weaving, how we're woven together.
Yeah, we can look at that, and I mean, one of the things that I love about this work and the abdominal work, everything we've done over the years, is like every abdomen tells a different story, right? So there's this weaving of everybody's stories within there. It was like this moon in the center, if you will, but I mean it's there. So I mean, there's this weaving of so much story and life and that we're creating awareness with each time and bringing to life, and within ourselves too. So um, it doesn't have to be getting a treatment or getting work done, but it's also just knowing that we have weaving capabilities, that it's not comparing ourselves to anybody else, but knowing what beauty we're weaving each day and the stories that we have weaved. It's pretty, you stop to think about it. It's, and each of us is, each person, no matter their time here on this, in this physical body, has weaved something, and through all these connections, even today, I see people and all these stories that we've all weaved in some degree, even. So it's, I like that quite a bit, the nature of weaving. So the last one here, do you have something for personal embodiment, Li-Lan?
I think that's our next part of our next slide, I think, too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, so as having a womb and hormonal cycles, I definitely loved learning more about the different cycles of having menstruation. I think going through school, it was very, anatomical, and it's a lot of words that, English being my third language, I still have a hard time sometimes remembering, some of those technical terms, though I know them. But to see my cycle as archetypes, to me, is very easy. my crone time is my menstruation, where I can go deep into, when possible. I've really tried to intend that during menses to go deeper into my inner world, inner psyche, into my dreams, into uh, yeah, letting go of resistance and accessing some deeper wisdom. And then as I move out of menstruation phase and into the maiden virgin phase, I'm naturally a little bit more in a linear mode. I can get a lot done. Um, um, I give less crap. I was gonna say I don't give a shit about certain things that as a Chinese person, or as a woman, been trained to sort of repress. And and then moving into ovulation phase, more of a caretaker, a social, much more outward, liking to connect. And from there, moving kind of into the more inward phase to start another cycle of moving into menstruation and the crone. So I've loved playing with that. In the sort of European tradition too, there's the female archetypes. And so I've woven that into my life. And now what I do is I try to plan out my schedule now that my cycle is regular, and it syncs up to the full moon on ovulation. And so I just am much more vocal about where I am in my cycle to the practitioners around me, to my clients, to my husband, as it's sort of my way of sharing not just where I am emotionally or physically or sexually, but also because I want to sort of demystify all of this where, it could be everyday language of communication. Just like people like to know each other's astrology signs, or where you're from, or where you do for a living. I mean, why not, share where you are in your cycle, because that can come into play with how you interact with others. And so that's kind of where I've been now after 15 years of playing with cycles and reflecting on them and embodying them. And now that I'm in my 40s, I have opted to, by choice, not to have my own children. I feel like originally I felt like I wanted to go from a maiden phase directly to the crone, because I was really interested in wisdom. And I accepted that I really had to go through the middle part, the caretaking phase of caretaking for myself. So what I've studied, and both in Chinese medicine and the Maya Dhamma massage, I've applied it to myself first, and about self-love and self-care. And that continues to be my motivation of all of this healing work, is for myself. And so that's my caretaking, and thus I can feel like I'm more resilient to help others and be of service to others. So I'm definitely in that larger sort of caretaker phase. And at the same time, I'm able to either week to week, move through the archetypes, even day to day. So that's where I am. In my sort of play with the cycles. And when it comes to creativity, I just like to add that bringing this beauty of being with the elements and with spiritual practices and energetic awareness, my creative life is so much more abundant than I could ever have imagined. I mean, I grew up in a family, in a culture where you pick something you want to do for a living and you stick to it, and it's generally something pretty linear, because there's a lot of emphasis on math and the sciences, and those things that in modern society make you tons of money, and maybe as a woman get you ahead of uh, other men. And I've been lucky that I've been in the West, because I think in the East there are other forms of sort of control, as well as lots of wisdom. But I feel like because my father moved to the West, and there's a little bit more openness to like emotions and personal inner freedom. That to me has been expressed through creativity, through my playing music, through how I dress, through what I create with my hands, and now through a lot of writing. And so it's so abundant, my goodness. So um, I'd hope that for everybody, male or female.
That's great, Li-Lan. Being a male in this, I'll speak from a duality, the other perspective in this, because I'm in the male form in this life of this. Moon cycles, you know, being that Ix-Chel embodies the moon has always been the energies there, and the fact that she was able to teach through that moon cycle, you know, women about calendar and menstruation, all of this. And we often think that the female only is has that emotional or that um, wisdom time, or during that menstrual cycle, or during any time in that cycle exactly. But the fact is that men also resonate with the moon. um, and I believe in sort of in ancient cultures, and sort of even Maya or others, so we would have this closer connection to nature and feel that presence more. Now we have artificial light, and a lot of times too, of course, electricity, and we never get outside, so we don't really feel that for one thing. And and so for me personally too, I was able to really have this reference to the moon, to her, to Shell, but also there is a male cycle that goes up and goes down with energy, with sexuality, sexual desire, sexual function, even intuitive function, or even depletion, that can rise with the full moon, that can go down in moon cycles. Sometimes it's different depending on stress levels. And if you're able to, you know, do some of the work on yourself and to connect with that, you can feel it. Now, a lot of times for a male, I will say, in our general population, in some degree, it can be a bit more difficult, unless they've done some work. Why is it for more women than men? Well, the thing is that, you know, males, although they do not have menstrual cycles, you know, um, they do too have emotions and everything, but and presence during full moon. The whole energy can fluctuate during the moon cycles, you know, from waxing to the waning moon. The ebb and flow moves both through the male and the female. But for men, it's a bit more complicated to feel energy because there's no physical menstrual cycle, which means the energy must clear through unobstructedly through the root to the crown, at least in my interpretation of it. Because most men in society do not cycle through their emotions, but rather hold on. They hold on to anger and negative emotions in some degree, and energy that way. It blocks a natural pathway to feeling connection to moon cycles. So, you know, again, women have this physiological function that is also connected to the moon, um, that helps clear things, clear energy through and feel. One of the ways men can do that in a way is either through getting emotion out of the body, sometimes even through ejaculation. But at the same time, they can't always do that every day. I mean, or not in the same fashion, because it can be depleting as well. So if they're not also releasing emotion. Um, so the moon cycles are very important on both perspectives. And for men, the point of it is too that there is a relatability to it, that it can be very, very good in the way that you can recognize, I can recognize when the full moon is coming. I can recognize that I have more energy, maybe sleep a little less. Um, but at the same time, you can recognize the energy going around you. You can recognize what phase that's in. If it's very waning moon or waxing moon, or if we're mid-cycle. Um, so I think men can kind of tune into it too, but there can be some confusion there as well. But yeah, that comes from what I've learned over the years by myself, but also just kind of talking to other elders as well, and healing as well. So.
So Alex, love to kind of pick your brain a little more because I love hearing this. So for example, you're saying like right now at the full moon, just like I was mentioning, it coinciding with a phase where I feel more outwardly connected. So like you were saying that you could feel that connection more around you. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. I pay attention to it. I do. And a lot of times I feel the energy and embodies with it. And so um, it's something that I kind of know, but I mean, it's what's happening around me. What's happening also, you can feel it when you're also seeing people around you, or you're gathering for a ceremony, the power that's there, the collectiveness, but also even the people you bring into your clinics that week. You can tell a lot of it is going to be a little bit more sometimes intense, or the energy is going to be a lot more around that a lot of times. So it's just to be aware of, it's create awareness within you, how you operate, how you communicate, what's your relationship like, what all these factors are. It helps you be a better in tune with your own um, oh, relationships, I guess.
And one more thing, when you were talking about emotions, I mean, I was seeing like a circle, yeah, like coming full circle. Would you mind elaborating a little bit more? You mentioned about not repressing them. So how would you say, would be a way of sort of moving through that cycle for yourself?
I think it's being, honest in a way to what you're feeling, having awareness of where things come from. Um, eh, Whether it's from today, whether it's from years ago, where those emotions drive from, not just walking past it, but feeling it, tangible. When you get a feeling, acknowledging it, but also don't feel like, if you feel anger towards something, you can feel anger, but know what it's from. You don't necessarily have to go yell at everybody, but at the same time, you have to go and you have to understand where it came from, what's triggering you, or what is happening, so it cleans out and doesn't just get buried down. If we don't, we trap heat in the body in a way that keeps it, then can create sickness, illness in a lot of ways too. And without such a physical way to work through cycles like a woman, it can be very hard for a male energy to hold all that in, that heat in the body, especially coming from the emotional withholding that we do. So as we talk about some of the practices, I think coming up, all the things that we used also to connect with Ix-Chel, whether it's spiritual baths, whether it's going to nature, whether it's just doing some or journaling, writing, those are all ways to clear energy out and emotional things too out of the body. I think body work is very good, sauna therapy, all those things. Yeah.
Getting creative, yeah, of how to
Being,
move things out.
being creative and being communicating, communicating with people around you, as you said, communicating, with your partner in life, or, people around you, relationships, being honest what you feel and what you're feeling, or having that respect for yourself, honoring yourself for one. Then you honor what you feel, then that releases that anxiety inside, or that tension. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, thank you.
So
So I think our next one is some ways, yeah, to connect with Ix-Chel. through the Arvigo sort of circles of the Mayan abdominal therapy trainers, yeah, we got into a tradition of lighting a candle in honor of the full moon, as there was a little song and sort of ceremony to honoring that lineage. Spiritual baths, lustral bowls. Lustral bowl means a bowl of light, which you see in that picture. That's my most recent lustral bowl. We were at in the mountains of Virginia, where I did a mini retreat with my practitioners here, and so I picked the spring flowers, and it was my way of honoring the clover and the red buds and the I think the Indian strawberry, that's the yellow flowers. I forget some of the names, but I do that now everywhere I go where I feel connected to nature. I'll with gratitude, fill up a little bowl with water, and with gratitude, I pick and I talk to the plants that are there, saying hello and brightening my days. And I set a little mini altar. Maybe this was at the front of the house. And that's become a very sort of natural way for me to honor nature and honor the spirit of the land. Yeah, I want to see if you want to add anything to that, Alex.
Both. I mean, I think the candle, I really love that because, I would at the time when I got into this, of course, I wasn't in Belize, but also, I was imagine being it was about 18 years ago, I guess it was, almost going 2 decades this, my gosh. But at the same time, being the only therapist here in this we live in Kansas City here in Kansas, Missouri, or in Missouri. So I was like the only practitioner here, and at the same time, male practitioner. So it was a way for me to do ceremony on my own, and feel connected to a larger circle of people and a group that I knew that were doing the same thing, that had been, it had been started. And for me, it really provided it still does, but it provided this connection, lighting the candle, the full moon. One, if I was just anywhere, there's the full moon. I had her, but then I also had, fellow colleagues, practitioners, other, women, some men in the circle too as well, that just felt that connection. So beautiful way to connect and honor. And part of this too. So I would add this. I reach out every day, in my practice, in my life, a lot of times. I mean, just about every day, but I mean, I ask for wisdom, I ask for guidance, I ask for Ix-Chel to kind of be there in different ways. But I find I change that on the full moon in some degree, because you can't always ask and never give. And so on the full moon, I feel like I don't get to ask, I get to honor her. So I changed that, to I honor. I mean, not that I don't honor her every day, but I light the candle, and I do that in a way that is more like giving back, almost like in a way to honor, as opposed to, because I know that she's got a lot of guidance, a lot of wisdom there in the spiritual form that provides and kind of endless, but I don't ever want to feel like it's always just been asked for. And I feel that reign around the full moon is especially those 3-6 days, is almost her time to be, honored. And at least what I've taken at. So I changed that for myself, at least in that way, that I not that I don't honor all the time, but I just kind of changed some of the words on a more of almost of a script. More of a ceremonial way in some degree for that speak of. And spiritual lusterbacks are always done with that intention, nature. Yeah.
Mm. Reverence, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Reverence.
Meditation comes very easily to me, I think, because I was in a group about 10 years ago where we met every week, and I was just writing a lot of meditation. So Ix-Chel came on a birthday of mine, I think in 2013. And that was the meeting, the Ix-Chel meditation that the Orvigo community ended up using, I think, as part of their spiritual healing classes and maybe at the primicia ceremonies and certain of the professional trainings. I always included that meditation when my students were on lying down doing their abdominal self-care massage, and I'd end with a meeting Ix-Chel meditation, which is beautiful. And then for this collaboration, I decided to write one that was gender neutral in honor of the times that we are going through. And that came out a little differently. So I'm really excited to share that with you in a little bit. I think nature, we've talked a lot about her symbolisms. And the Oracle of Ix-Chel and the Islands of Women are two of Rosita's novels that she researched. We all heard her research like over 10 years of how, yeah. And here's both of those books. You can find them online with beautiful books. And then we wanted to share how the Abdominal Therapy Collective and the Orvigo Therapy site have the Wisdom of Water Plants and Prayers is listed as an Abdominal Therapy Collective course. And with the Orvigo Therapy, verify any currently scheduled courses on their websites, as they also, honor the lineage of our teachers of this and of Ix-Chel.
Let's see.
Yeah. I think this is an invocation for you before we take a little break and move into a meditation. This was given to me by one of, I think, my students, the dragonfly. So dragonfly, ancient flitting spirit, master of light and precision. Dragonfly, I call on you, teach me to dance in the disappearing mists of dawn. Show me the beauty in each day by marrying thought and emotion. Help me see through the illusions that bind me and understand those that enliven my soul. Help me remember that light penetrates as well as paints, that colors deepen as time flows past, that controlled flight is indeed possible. Please weave the light of transformation and adaptation in my life. Dragonfly, I call on you.
Beautiful.
Mm. And I think the next slide, right, Alice, is the tree.
Yep.
Yeah. So take a look at this tree. Some of you who have been to Belize and Chalk Creek and the Orvigo Institute trainings might recognize this. It's a tropical tree that, unfortunately, I don't know the genus or species. It was right next to my little cabin right there on the left. And take a good look at this tree because I'll be using it in the meditation next. See that beautiful sort of bifurcated trunk, and then the undulating roots. I mean, to me, it's the spirals are, very, very feminine. It's kind of the way I love to dance for myself, and kind of see yourself being able to sit in front of this tree. This tree did inspire the meeting Ix-Chel meditation on my birthday, and it continues to inspire me for this next one. Ix-Chel bears gifts. That's the meditation I like to share with this group. So, yeah. So with that, I think we can leave this. Let's see. Shall we leave this picture up, or shall we skip to me with meditation? I think we'll hmm. think we'll do me with meditation, Alex. But let me prep everybody. So you need a.
I like this picture. Maybe is it said is the next slide just meditation? I can't see.
I think the next one just says. I can't remember. I think the next one is just our part of our closing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can leave it here. Yeah, whichever one. But take a break. You need to use the restroom. Take a few minutes. We're gonna come back in as soon as possible. So, if you like to prepare a cup of water, if you have a plant or a flower or an herb that you can touch, and if you have something fuzzy like your pet or a stuffed animal or a doll, okay, that you'd like to kind of bring into the meditation and embody, you can do that. So we'll meet back in a few minutes, and get yourself comfy.
Can I say something?
Sure.
This is phenomenal. The representations from both views and all of the honoring of nature is it's resonating so deeply with me. I did copy the Abdominal Collective website, and because now I totally want my belly to be reorganized, I guess. So, many blessings. I'll take my little break here, but I'm so grateful that you're introducing this to me.
I so knew, Christopher, you'd relate to this, and I loved, I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but to hear Alex here share so much is, to me, a gift. So.
And
Yeah.
Alex, your perspective is so eloquent, and I'm a gay male, and for me, the masculine and the feminine energy is very integrated. And that's the beauty of being a whole person. And so the duality and all that and all the breakdown, and in the life and in the world, it's the divine feminine is really coming back. And so I just love that there's this ancient history that's emulating that truth.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, even for a like I say a male, if there was a male god, if you will, I don't know what would represent in some degree that those stages, for that in the same thing. Sometimes we have a grandfather spirit, we have a boy spirit, but where does that, where's the father spirit in between? Usually that's very like a lot of times that father spirit can be very demanding, I guess, if you will. In some religious terms, it's more like do this, do as I say, do this, but it's not a flowy, it's not a it goes to warrior a lot of times, and that doesn't always resonate. I mean, with our it shouldn't. I mean, it's what we're taught a lot, what we need to be, but not, and that's not a natural state. It's a state of being. So I think that's a good thing that you can kind of take from that and see that too. That's nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I will get ready and look forward to the.
Well, no more than probably 5 minutes, because we're like running behind on time, I think. So I just want to keep it too long. No more than a couple minutes. So a couple minutes now. So.
Okay, I'll be back in a second.
So.
Or actually, I can be ready now.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know, Alex, we had to, wait for people to come in, but remember I told you that we have a lot to share between both of us. And I can't always keep track of time, but we're getting along. We might go a little, I think the meditation is about 10 minutes is what I timed. So.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be good. We could practically write a whole book, huh? I think. I'd love to keep reflecting on what you've said too, Alex. It's really nice.
The weaving of that picture, the weaving of that tree.
I'll start sharing it with, I've always worked with men, both with the abdominal massage and just in general. And so I remember Rosita saying that men need healing work as much as women, even though, yeah, you know, as healers and practitioners, there's maybe more women that are coming to both receive or to be practitioners. But I always resonated with not excluding men. And so
I'm glad I wasn't excluded. Just kidding.
what was that?
I said I'm glad I wasn't excluded.
I know, isn't that terrible to feel excluded? I mean, it's like, so,
Yeah.
let's see. It's, I guess the neat thing about Zoom is like people can be in naked or whatever, or in pajamas. They don't have to show themselves. But then we're going to assume that you're there and ready for meditation, because yeah, we're not going to say, are you ready, and have you respond, because we're going to move along. So you can lie down for this meditation if you like. It's about 10 minutes, like I said. But sitting is a more engaged way of going into this meditation, and you can certainly move too. I do like, you hear me say the word embodied a lot, because I do feel that that's the way to be with awareness and being present. So you'll see that some of the cues, you can actually just have your eyes open and connect to your water, connect to your fuzzy doll, pet, stuffed animal, and have something that's in the plant world for you to hold. Okay. So this is Ix-Chel, Bear's Gifts. Start with your breath. Taking a breath in and exhaling, shifting from a sort of maybe brain space, though we've been in both the mind and the heart the last 90 minutes or so. So get comfy and we move into a meditation. You can have your candle, your water. You can close your eyes for the following visualization or not. But I'd like for you to feel and imagine that you're cradling yourself into the trunk of that tropical tree in Belize. And feel your back supported by its trunk. Your legs relax into its undulating roots. Check with your spine right now. And envision that your spine is being supported by this beautiful, graceful tree. So you lean your head back and you rest your arms at your sides. Allow yourself to rest and to breathe a sigh of contentment and gratitude for the respite of this time and this tree. Rest deeply into your breath. As you continue to rest, and you are envisioning as the sun sets, dusk settles, feeling cocooned in a cooler mist as the heat of the tropical day dissipates. Your vision gradually adjusts to the changing light. You start to hear cicadas buzzing, frogs singing in syncopated call and response in various pitches. And as the darkness settles, fireflies light up and dance around you. Take another deep breath and welcome the peacefulness and rest of the night. Feel the warmth of your spine leaning against the tree and the grounded warmth of the earth and where you are sitting. Allow yourself to be cocooned by the night in safety, like a silkworm inside its woven dress, like being enveloped with a soft blanket, like a baby inside a womb, like being embraced by the wings of your guardian angel. Breathe deep and let's welcome the gifts of Ix-Chel. First, Ix-Chel the crone, the wise one, comes to you bringing eons of wisdom and knowledge held within a plain and simple water jug. Ix-Chel's benevolent face smiles, showing weathered lines of time. Eyes shine brightly, imparting an immediate sense of trust. Ix-Chel holds the water jug of wisdom and knowledge in both hands and passes it to you to drink. With humility, your outstretched hands cradle this ancient earthenware. You take a breath in and exhale with gratitude. As you bring this jug to your lips and drink of its cool, sweet spring water. Whether you take a sip or drink thirstily, allow yourself to savor each and every moment of your drinking experience. Feeling your mouth and your tongue and the swallow. And allow the water to be absorbed into each cell, infusing your mind with wisdom and knowledge. You return Ix-Chel's jug with gratitude and deep reverence, knowing that when you ask humbly of her wisdom, she will gladly offer you another drink. Take a moment to integrate what has been gifted to you and you have graciously accepted. You can move back into your cocoon and your breath, and you may also take a sip of your water if you wish. Next, you meet Ix-Chel, the caretaker, bearing the gift of a rabbit. Your heart warms with love and care for this sweet being with its gentle eyes. This rabbit symbolizes the caring and love for yourself and others. As Ix-Chel places this rabbit into your arms, a gentleness spreads and diffuses in your chest as you see this rabbit is a bit startled by the change of hands. Cradle this being in the crook of your elbows and relax and breathe with loving kindness as you soften your heart and you transmit the energy of pure love, feeling that flow down your arms and shoulders, into your hands, and into this rabbit. You patiently wait for this animal to relax, and you watch how its eyes soften, its muscles relax, and its whiskers start to twitch, sensing its surroundings and feeling your love. You stroke its smooth, soft fur, which is the gift of abundance, of your true heart's purpose. You thank Ix-Chel with an inner smile. Take a deeper breath to integrate this gift to you and that you have graciously accepted. You can move into your cocoon or to stroking your pets, your skin, your belly, or soft object that you hold in your hands. Next, you meet Ix-Chel, the maiden virgin, the child, who lightheartedly skips towards you bearing a long garland of marigold flowers. You relate to the innocence in Ix-Chel's eyes as your outstretched palms receive this garland of vibrant red, orange, and gold flowers. You bring this garland to your nose and inhale its unique fragrance. A fragrance that only this particular plant has amidst the millions of plants on this earth. You marvel at the perfectness of each silky flower petal as you run each flower through your fingers like prayer beads. Take a deeper breath and delight in the simple pleasures of being present, of being embodied, and being connected to Earth. You wear this garland over your neck and feel it cascade down to touch your lower belly. Ix-Chel laughingly retreats. Take another deeper breath to honor what has been gifted to you and you have graciously accepted. If you'd like to hold a flower or touch a plant to honor the plant world, do so. If you continue with your eyes closed, come to the image of you sitting, resting your back against that tropical tree with its undulating roots. Feel your spine as it sways and rubs up against its trunk. Stretch your feet and legs. You spiral your ankles. Spiral your hands and wrists, your neck and shoulders. Embodying this image, if you've slowly opened your eyes at your own time, feel the undulations of your body as you see this tree, this tropical tree. Allow the energies of and gifts of Ix-Chel to fill you with gratitude as you come out of this meditation. Thank you. We have a closing statement written by Alex.
Thank you, Li-Lan. That was beautiful, that meditation. Any comments or anything before we kind of do a little closing statement, or any for anybody, or questions?
Oh, yeah. We're gonna stay on a little bit, but yeah, we'll honor any.
If there are anybody, let us know. But I'll read. The next thing is, how does this all mean for us today? I think what came to me is this: you know, we talked about Ix-Chel being accessible, relatable, and adaptable. There's this. How can we take her with us every day now? So this is kind of something that I came up with and wrote a little bit. So I'll just read it and you can follow along. It says, Ix-Chel has many representations within her. The water or river that she embodies, represents movement and change, that we are ever flowing into a new time. As we break away from the masculine warrior and into the divine feminine, we have to remember there is resistance, but the water will find its way into the path of least resistance to nurture all of us. She will give us the comfort we need, as Mother Earth has always done, and provide a rainbow of light that shines not only from above, but from within us. She will also remind us that we must honor the wisdom of our elders, that our past must not be forgotten. Our traditions in ancient natural medicine are the simple but effective approaches that will keep our health in harmony and alignment with earth and spirit. So that synopsis is what has a lot of into it, but represents what I see is where we kind of have to pull from to go forward, and where we're at, and where you resonate with it is kind of each person, of course, but that's what came to me. Just like a meditation is what Li-Lan kind of brought to it, and this is what I kind of thought, how are we weaving this all together for today? So that's kind of where we came to. Move on.
Yeah, I say aho, it's beautiful. I really, yeah, love what you wrote, and I resonate a lot with it. And this kind of just came to like, we each did our thing and we put together, and it's creating something even more beautiful than we each could have done. So I think our last slide is just ways to connect with us, Alex and I. Have our websites and the Spirit World Meetup Group. I'm an assistant organizer there. There's fun, these days it's virtual events. And thank you for those from the Meetup Group that RSVP'd, and I'd love to continue connecting with all these different groups that I've been very fortunate to connect from all around the world.
Yep, there's we have also our website, newsletters, we have stuff like that, and we'll have more events coming up. I'm working on, thank you for the collaboration here and the invite to participate with this, Li-Lan, and collaborate on this. It's been really good, and reconnect and do this. It's always a good place in my heart for everything and everybody here. And we'll have things on our website too, coming forward with even different classes we're going to be teaching here, or some also things I'm developing with a method of teaching I'm developing as well for work as well. So that'll be on there too. What's called the Awareness is Healing Institute. That's on there as well.
I knew I could rely on you, Alex, because I almost forgot. And if you don't mind closing the screen share, because we're going to open it up to the group. I told Alex that he needed to remind me at the end to share what's upcoming, because I'm so in meditation that I forget. But I want to tell everybody that there is a meditation that I've been channeling since my birthday in December this last year, and it's to Ix-Chel the Queen. Which probably about the same time that Rosita started talking about the fourth archetype several years ago now, Ix-Chel the Queen. It seemed to coincide with the other groups I'm in with the archetypes of the Queen, and this past December, the Queen started sharing some beautiful teachings to me that I've titled Transcendence of the Heart. Transcendence of the Pure Heart. And I'm going to see when that comes out, but I have put it on my website as the intention of sort of doing the linear stuff around that webinar. Some very, very powerful teachings coming through from the Queen. And so I'd be excited to share. So stay in touch. And so now I'm free to hang out with everybody who can stay and unmute and share, and love to hear from you and see you.
That was lovely. Thank you very much. I'm really glad I found the way to join.
Thank you.
Last time I saw Lizzie was in Belize in 2012.
Yeah, or 2011 even.
Did some great traveling and some special trips with this awesome man who took us on a diving
Yes,
trip.
that's right. Yes, was his name Juno or something like that?
I just remember us asking. So he has this special connection to the sharks, right, and to the fish, the area. And I remember us asking him if it was okay to go while we were on our period.
I was very worried that the sharks were going to eat me because I was bleeding.
And he said, I love what he said. He says, well, you know, when you get in the tub while you're menstruating, it's not like blood comes out. So there's a seal when you're in the water. Don't worry.
Li-Lan, you're still recording. I don't know if you want to stop the recording.
See, I told you I'm much more open about these things.
That's why she said she'd edit it later, right?
I'll stop the recording now.
Yeah.